The Russian military, once touted by Vladimir Putin as the second strongest army in the world, has recently faced significant embarrassment on multiple fronts, but none as striking as its retreat from Syria. This new defeat, not in Ukraine or Russian soil, but in Syria, has made headlines worldwide, particularly due to the rapid advancements by rebel forces and the consequential loss of strategic bases and military assets that Russia had spent billions of dollars constructing. The rebel forces, showing remarkable tenacity and military prowess, have made enormous strides, capturing critical cities and military bases and forcing Russian troops to abandon their positions. The situation in Syria has escalated to the point where it could potentially mark the end of Bashar al-Assad's regime, a regime that has been heavily supported by Russia, which has invested not only military resources but political capital into ensuring Assad's survival as a puppet leader. For the first time in over 5 decades of Assad rule, the regime has lost 2 major cities in just 1 week, Aleppo and Hama. This has led many geopolitical experts to speculate that the fall of Assad's government could be imminent. The loss of these cities is a blow to Assad, but also to Russia, which has relied on Syria as its last stronghold in the Mediterranean. Assad's fall would mean Russia loses its foothold in the region, along with the strategic port of Tartus, its only Mediterranean naval base, something of significant value for its naval and geopolitical interests. The loss of this port would have severe ramifications, not just for Russia's military capabilities, but also for its image as a global superpower. The offensive by Syrian rebels began with the surprise capture of Aleppo, and within days they seized Hama, the 7th largest city in Syria. This was no ordinary victory. The rebels, many of whom are Islamist factions, entered the city virtually unopposed, with the Syrian army retreating in such haste that they left behind crucial military equipment, including sophisticated Russian-made systems. The speed of this withdrawal was shocking, leaving military analysts and experts questioning the strategic competence of Russia's Syrian command. As the rebels paraded through Hama, they filmed themselves celebrating their victory, showing their newfound control over military bases, weapons, and even Russian anti-aircraft systems. These systems, including radar and missile defense equipment, are not just valuable trophies for the rebels, they are a serious concern for Russia, with NATO member Turkey operating in the region and seeking to counter Russia's influence. The fear is that this captured equipment could end up in the hands of NATO forces, potentially allowing them to reverse engineer the technology. The situation in Hama was not just a military setback, it was a humiliation. The Syrian army's swift retreat left much of its military infrastructure untouched, including a Syrian Air Force base packed with warplanes and helicopters, all of which the rebels now control. The images of abandoned military hardware and the sight of Russian-made systems in the hands of rebel forces have created a serious diplomatic and military dilemma for Moscow. The stakes couldn't be higher for Russia, which had invested years and billions of dollars into ensuring Assad's control over Syria. The potential loss of this investment has caused internal turmoil, with Russia's military command in Syria facing severe questions about the competence of its strategy. The ramifications of the loss of Hama were not confined to the battlefield. For the first time in decades, Russia's fleet in the Mediterranean was forced to leave the port of Tartus, a strategic naval base that Russia has occupied since the Soviet era. This was not just a withdrawal of troops but a complete retreat of the Russian fleet, signaling an unprecedented abandonment of a military asset in the region. The withdrawal from Tartus has been described by military experts as an acknowledgement of the dire situation on the ground, one in which the Russian military had no choice but to cut its losses and withdraw. Tartus, which has been Russia's primary foothold in the Mediterranean, is now under threat of being lost, which would significantly diminish Russia's naval capabilities in the region. The geography of Syria exacerbates the crisis for Russia, with rebel forces advancing towards Damascus, the capital. The situation grows more precarious. If the rebels captured Damascus, it would be a devastating blow to the Assad regime and a catastrophic failure for Russian interests. The potential fall of Damascus would cut off Russia's access to the Mediterranean via Tartus, isolating the Russian military from the rest of the country. This strategic location has long been a key asset for Russia, providing it with a base of operations in the Middle East and a point of leverage in its rivalry with NATO. Losing this base would signal a massive setback for Putin's ambitions in the region. The speed with which the rebels have advanced has left Russia scrambling to contain the damage. The Russian withdrawal from Tartus was a clear signal of the collapse of its strategic position in Syria. Military analysts note that the only reason for such a retreat would be the immediate threat of a major assault on the base. This sudden and unexpected withdrawal paints a picture of a military that has lost control of the situation, one that was unable to defend its most crucial base in the Mediterranean. The loss of Tartus could have ripple effects throughout the Russian military, undermining its credibility as a global military power. The consequences of this defeat are far-reaching. Russia's influence in the Middle East has been built on the foundation of Assad's regime and the use of Syrian territory as a strategic asset. With the regime on the brink of collapse, the future of Russia's position in the region is uncertain. The implications of losing Syria go beyond military and political considerations. They affect Russia's global standing. Putin's decision to intervene in the Syrian civil war was driven by the desire to maintain Russia's influence in the Middle East, counterbalance the dominance of the United States and NATO, and secure a foothold in the Mediterranean. Losing Syria would diminish Russia's ability to project power in the region and undermine its efforts to challenge NATO and the West. The collapse of Assad's regime would also mark the end of a key ally for Iran in the Middle East. For years, Syria has served as a vital link in Iran's axis of resistance, connecting Tehran to Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iraq, and other parts of the region. The loss of Syria would be a devastating blow to Iran's strategic ambitions, weakening its position in the Middle East and diminishing its ability to exert influence over key players in the region. For Iran, Syria is more than just an ally. It is a conduit through which it projects power and maintains its influence in the region. In the broader context of Middle Eastern geopolitics, the situation in Syria reflects a shifting balance of power. The Middle East has long been a region of instability, with various powers vying for dominance. Russia's retreat from Syria signals a changing dynamic, one in which Western powers, particularly the United States, may find themselves with an opportunity to reassert influence in the region. This has already been seen in the case of Turkey, which has been positioning itself as a counterbalance to Russia's presence in Syria and is benefiting from the chaos surrounding Russia's withdrawal. The rebel forces, who have taken advantage of the chaos in Syria, are not just a threat to Assad, they are a challenge to the entire geopolitical order in the region. The capture of Aleppo and Hama is a testament to their growing strength and their ability to destabilize the Assad regime. The situation in Syria is fluid, and as the rebels continue to gain ground, it is unclear how much longer Assad will be able to hold on to power. The defeat of Assad would mark a major shift in the Middle East, signaling the end of Russian dominance in the region and potentially reshaping the balance of power in the entire Middle East. In conclusion, the ongoing crisis in Syria stands as a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of prolonged conflict, shifting alliances, and the disintegration of once dominant influences. For Russia, losing Syria would deal a significant blow, not only to its military and political clout but also to its reputation on the global stage. The potential fall of the Tartus naval base and the Assad regime would symbolize the collapse of Russia's strategic foothold in the Mediterranean, drastically limiting its ability to counter Western powers in the region. As the Middle East remains a key battleground for international rivalries, the developments in Syria will undoubtedly shape the geopolitical landscape of the region for years to come. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Crisis of Empires for more insights and updates on global conflicts and power struggles.